Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to Entrepreneur Empowered. I'm your host, Attorney Sid Pedinti, aka the Entrepreneur's Attorney. I welcome you whether you're listening on BashaniRadio.com, iHeartRadio, or if you tuned in to one of our online apps. I welcome you here. This show is about entrepreneurship. This show is about technology. This show is about empowering you with the strategies, with the tools, with the technologies that you need in order to create consistent businesses the way you like so that you're empowering yourself with the strategies, with these tools, and you're able to build assets in the process. In today's show, I have here in front of me Google's free automated auto draw version. And what I'm going to do is walk you through a simple process, a three-step process that involves technology. Today I'm going to break down how you can use technology to develop high worth digital assets, valuable assets that you can leverage, you can monetize, that help you generate revenue, that help you increase your net worth, that you could perhaps even flip and sell for premium dollars. You hear this every single day, right? Companies, software companies, digital app companies, analytics companies selling for millions and millions of dollars. Even blogs that have not even made a penny yet, but have the visitors, but have particular group of people engaged, actively participating, interacting with these communities, with these pages, with these blogs that sell for millions. This is possible with technology, right? That's what a digital asset is. And so in today's show, as you can see here, if you're tuned in onto our video version, you're going to be able to see the three different, a triangle that I'm going to build. And each side of the triangle represents a different area of your business and how you can use technology to enhance your bottom line, to enhance your net worth in these three specific areas. Okay, so if you're listening to us as part of the podcast, if you're on Bashani Radio and iHeart Radio, I welcome you to go ahead and take a look at the video version of this radio show so that you can follow along and you can understand exactly what we're talking about and have a template that you can develop for your own business. One that you can use to start creating high value intellectual property and digital assets. Now, the beauty of the digital asset and why I'm focusing on that in particular is that we're talking about knowledge, we're talking about information, we're talking about ideas that you already possess. No matter what industry you've been working in, chances are that you have some insights, you have some experience, you have certain know-hows you've discovered over the years, tricks of the trade, if you want to call it that. And it's about identifying how you can monetize these, how you can digitize this information, how you can digitize this knowledge that you possess, and how do you leverage that by giving it specific value. One of the ways to do that is to create digital assets and, in particular, intellectual property. So the process of creating a digital asset using technology, the first step is to really identify which particular areas of your business can be digitized, right? Which areas of your business, which areas of your mind, your intellect can be transformed into assets using technology. So on the first side of the triangle, let's say we have a triangle here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this out. On the first side of the triangle, we have mechanisms, technologies that help you find your ideal prospects, right? Find clients. So I'm going to call it the hunting phase. Like, your business, you're hunting for leads, you're hunting for clients, and it's about developing digital assets in that phase, right? Rather than that, let's call it the attraction process. Okay, so this is the attraction process, and how you can use technology to develop digital assets during this process, and how you can do that. Number one, okay, so here I'm now going to draw 3 different triangles for each of these. So let's go ahead and select this and put it here. Alright, I'm sorry, let me just do this again real quick. So I'm going to take a shape here. I have a triangle. Okay, so on the first side of it, we have tools that you can use to attract the right client, right? So here I'm talking about the lead generation clients. So here I'm talking about using Facebook, using Google, using Yellow Pages, using different digital platforms to create more revenue, to create and look for ideal clients. So here we're talking about the pinpointing strategies, right? How do you pinpoint a client? How do you develop surveys? How do you develop data? How do you develop information that you can use and you can monetize? And so here, think about stuff that involves, quote unquote stuff that involves things like creating big data, right? You could probably have, so for example, surveys, you can have Q&As, you can have assessment forms. These are intake documents that you probably use in your business to screen clients, right? So what information about your industry would you like to know, right? And so develop a process on how you can now develop that information in-house. This is your asset, right? So email lists, very specific questions that you have on questionnaires that you deal with clients as you onboard them. These are all different strategies that you can deploy, right? Small changes like surveys, asking questions, figuring out focus groups, perhaps giving feedback for free, right? Maybe a 2-step integration of a workflow that involves an application form, and on the second page a free call, right, that you can integrate into your business. Maybe a different side of your business, one where you're not actively participating, but one that you can leverage, that you'd like to enter into. So there's multiple ways to find out more information about your market, about your industry, and identify ways to transform that information, that data, those demographic related questions and insights that you can gather into digital assets. So then publishing perhaps an email list, right? And with that email list and with the questions that you have developed in your survey, creating a short report perhaps that you can leverage into others in your specific industry, right? Flipping that information over that you've collected and used, and using it with competitors, perhaps in a different market, right, who are not direct competitors, but who could use this information in their businesses and who would be willing, as you are probably, to pay top dollar for it. Okay, so using surveys, like I said, using question and answers, asking people to give you feedback is one good way to start developing a digital asset. The second thing that you could use, so let's put that block here. And so this is, again, the attraction side, right? This is developing the data on how to attract clients. The second thing that you could use, and here it focuses on engagement. So maybe there are different strategies that you've used in the past to engage clients. So what data, what blogs, what content, what question and answers, what videos, audios, maybe articles can you publish, can you develop, can you come up with that would engage your ideal audience, right? Think about that in your business. So for example, this particular video or this particular audio session that you're listening to is talking about how to use technology to develop a digital asset. Chances are, you've come across these strategies, but 99% of the people that walk into my office or call me have never considered creating a digital asset. Uh, and they're leaving a lot of money on the table. They're leaving a lot of their information, revenue, everything else that they know on the table, not monetizing it. So think about transforming what you already know or what you already do on a day-to-day basis into a process that can be, number one, used to create an asset out of it. So if you're investing money to market, and if you have people visiting your pages, looking to engage with your content, why don't you put in some survey forms, like I said, right? Why don't you go ahead and start publishing content, putting in relevant material that they can engage with, and start tracking that information. Because as you know, blogs and different websites and different apps and software that have a lot of engagement, that have a lot of user database, that have statistics and information about it are worth a lot of money. Blogs are being sold for millions of dollars every single day. Just pick up the text section, flip around, and take a look at the amount of money being poured into these industries, right? So it's all about big data. It's all about micro, getting into the specifics of these different businesses. The, so in this particular segment here, again, the things you want to focus on are developing the process behind it, and then identifying the process into smaller chunks with a specific name, perhaps, right? So by doing this, you're able now to um, monetize and leverage things in your business that you actively do on a day-to-day basis and create revenue out of it, right? Additional revenue streams. So if that's an idea that you're looking to incorporate, then certainly development of these digital assets, as I mentioned, is an area that you do not want to leave out as part of your negotiation strategies. The other third part of this process that you can monetize is the development of very specific funnels, right? Let's call them micro funnels. So for example, if you're an attorney, right? I'll take that example. And you have 3, 4 different areas of law that you practice. So I'll give you an example of how we use this in our existing firm right now. I have a bankruptcy practice, or rather, we service people in bankruptcy. We practice wills and estates, business law, contracts, and intellectual property. All these different elements that I just spoke to you about involve one thing. Number one, it's about assets. It's about protection of assets. It's about creation, recognition, identification, and the protection of these different assets. So it's about identifying how you can make your process that much more specific, that much more customized and streamlined to what you're trying to accomplish, so that these specific funnels that you build, these micro funnels, can be used. Again, going back to the 2 points I just mentioned, where you're pinpointing and engaging, they can be used together. This is a process of attracting clients, and in that process, using small systems that are geared to capture data at every layer. You're capturing additional data that you could use not only in your business, as I mentioned, but to create new digital assets, to create ways of monetizing what you're already doing, which is spending money, advertising your business, marketing your company, trying to gather data from clients, and finding ways to leverage this data in multiple ways. And so that's the process of how you can use technology in this particular case in the client attraction side of your business to develop these digital assets that have value. So the particular strategies here, or the particular assets rather, I'm going to give you some examples. So as I mentioned, surveys are really good. You can write reports on it. You can gather data from Q&A sessions. You can offer free feedback, um, out of which you can extrapolate information once again. You can start writing blogs, which contain very specific engagement related tags. Once again, you want to be able to track this data. So insert your different Google, Facebook, or other pixels throughout these pages so you can start developing on the back end, identifying patterns, using that data to have predictive analysis in your business, right? Making predictive decisions. So that's what this is about. It's about developing these different assets. So surveys, reports, Q&A forums, feedback sessions, blogs, questionnaires. These are the different assets that can be developed um, as long as you have a very specific strategy by doing nothing additional in your business. So in the process of your marketing campaigns, in the process of getting your potential lead, your potential client to engage with you, to interact with you, to give you the information about themselves, about what they need, about what they're looking for, about the solution that they need in their business right now or in their life, you can not only develop a system to enhance your own business by being laser focused, but use this same information to, like I said, develop additional digital assets that can be monetized in a variety of ways. So those are some of the things you want to consider in the attraction side and how you can develop these microfunnels that have high worth, that possibly high worth digital assets and intellectual properties. The key again here is the word intellect, right? And in particular, transforming those intellectual skills or ideas that are already in your mind, that you already actively participate and use money to try and generate through clients, and develop them into assets, right? Into commercial properties that can be traded, that have value, that you can leverage online in multiple ways in your additional business, right? In your existing business, or even perhaps start a new consulting arm or leverage it as a different way through competitors, as I gave you some examples, where you're able to identify competitors who need this information, perhaps from a different market, so there's no direct threat. But it pays off what your marketing efforts are, right? So think about some of those things as we explore this concept a bit further. So here, I'm going to help you by making these triangles green. That's where the money is. All right. And so you have that. The second area, the second side of this triangle now, is the screening side. Okay, so here, once again, we're talking about three different areas that we can focus on. The first one, in this case, I'm just going to adjust this slightly. The first one here is the particular type So I'm talking about a form, developing different forms that have information, extracting the information that you need from your ideal leads, from your market. So here you want to start using things, or for some examples are Google Forms, a free asset that you can use. Facebook has lead forms now as part of their advertising toolkit. You can in fact even create these for free using other websites like SurveyMonkey or whatnot, right? There's some limits on how much you can use it. I prefer Google Forms. It's easy. It's quick to use. It can be synced to almost any platform, and it's very clean. It's already mobile friendly. So think about two areas, right? As part of your screening process, when you deploy every single day, two additional questions perhaps that would give you greater insight into your market, into your audience, into your consumers or customers' minds, right? What information would help you make a more informed decision as you're placing your ads, as you're pinpointing who your customers are, and in integrate those particular questions into your next form. Perhaps try this as a split test. So that way, if you have existing workflows that are working well, you're not going to disrupt those. But try a few ads, right? The next time you place some, or if the next time you're talking to a consumer, go ahead and ask them one or two additional questions. See if that information is able to, equip you with the additional data that you need. Okay, so that's the screening side and how to develop additional asset by doing that and getting the required information and transforming that information once again into reports. As I mentioned earlier, you can create reports out of it. You can still being compliant with privacy policies and anti-spam rules and new European related privacy issues. You can still use this information in different ways, maintaining privacy compliance regulations. The other area, as you can see here, the next triangle, is the actual calls. And so here we're talking about scripts, we're talking about formats and streamlined processes that you can use, you can test, you can deploy, from which you can gather the information, you can identify closing rates, you can get better data from your prospective clients, and at the same time be able to leverage that in multiple ways. So again, another example of this would be the use of a particular script to close a client in let's say a bankruptcy industry, right, where we're talking about specific data and insights gained from that, using that to close in a real estate industry perhaps, right, where a particular realtor's facing inconsistent pitches, inconsistent closes. The process of streamlining this, developing a script that can be easily transformed or customized to different industries, is something you can perhaps identify, right? Using that script, selling that script, digitizing that into an asset can be something very specific. Now, developing a whole concept behind it where it becomes perhaps a digital asset into a PDF or maybe even a forum or something that people can subscribe to, developing a course out of it, how to pitch and close, perhaps even developing a full-blown event on how to pitch and close. So there's multiple ways you can develop assets and intellectual properties and transform those small elements in your business into an entire revenue stream, right? Into an entire digital asset, a piece of intellectual property that has high value. And so this example, if you were to give that pitch and close system, right, a name and perhaps offer a training out of it, now all of a sudden that itself is a way of creating a new intellectual property, giving that a trademarkable name, giving it a copyright perhaps, right? And existing systems, the digital assets behind it, right? The publications, the marketing pitches, the creatives that you create, the closing that you use in that exact sequence. These are all assets that you can develop in that process. Okay, so far we've covered 5 different examples of how you can create digital assets using nothing different but what you're already doing in your business. Okay, we've talked about pinpointing, the first step in the attraction process, using the surveys, using question answers, using different forms. We've talked about the engagement process, where here you can develop a specific process, develop blogs, articles, and using tools like Facebook, like Google, right, as well as Google or Reddit or others, specific platforms that people visit, Eventbrite. These or even Meetup, right? Using these, creating forums in them that extrapolate specific data that you can leverage multiple ways. Then we have the microfunnel strategy I just mentioned to you, how development of this in your business not only enhances your bottom line, but at the same time increases your ability to develop more specific and streamline information in this process. We talked about screening using Google Forms, Facebook Lead Forms, SurveyMonkeys for asking and extrapolating data once again. Lastly, we talked about developing scripts and formats that are designed to close and pitch and developing different assets related to those. Let's talk about developing profiles, so customer databases here, right? So here you want to think of things in your business like your email list. Here you want to think about social following. Here you want to think about group members, right? Engagement rates, and identify where and which one of these are assets that you'd like to protect. Number one, internally in the organization, in your company. Number two, from competitors, from others in the marketplace who need this type of data. And number three, perhaps leveraging this data with competitors, once again, in a non-competing market. Maybe in your same industry, but non-competing market. Maybe you're in Los Angeles or New York, and you can use this data or to enhance somebody else's business in Chicago or Miami, right? So two examples there, which allow you to use this data in different ways. So these are things that have tremendous value. For example, the email list, right? Somebody asked me last week about how to use that on Facebook to pinpoint the exact person that you need. And there's specific ways to do that. Same thing on Google, uploading those lists. And what Google, Facebook, and these other platforms do is have the mechanisms and the artificial intelligence machines working behind the scenes where they can find the exact type of profile associated with your email address and find a person with those behavioral patterns, behavioral traits, specific niches or specific questions, specific things they're looking for, even purchasing behavior for that matter, right? Identifying, if, for example, if you're a B2B provider where you provide marketing services, right, and you're looking for business owners who are actively in the market looking to purchase business marketing related services. Now, let's say you have a customer database of 1,000 emails that you've had over the last few years that you've developed. That's something that you can easily leverage, right? By just understanding how to do that. So these are the things you want to consider, right? How to use that information, how to use Facebook, how to use Google, and the other platforms that help you pinpoint those exact people just like your customers. Imagine having the data where you can get the person who's just about to make a transaction, who's actively looking, connected directly to you, and you use these 6 different engagement systems that I just spoke about, the digital asset creation systems, and make one simple transaction into different pieces of commercial assets, right? So here you can use that to develop a following, to have a group that has members similar to your existing customer list or email list, and develop different funnels behind that. Okay. Once again, the beauty of this is that it does not require you to develop anything additional. This is something that you probably already perform in your business on a day-to-day basis, right? It's just about identifying different ways to convert those mechanisms into digital assets. So that's on the second side. In the screening side, how you can go ahead and develop additional assets that have high value without actually doing anything different in the same process, just being a bit more structured and processed about the whole thing. Let's talk about the closing here, right? Closing and delivery. So there's three specific areas, once again, where you can use technology to develop assets and use those different digital assets to create different streams of income, as well as different high valued assets. So let's focus on the first triangle here. Let me go ahead and grab this and up. All right, so we have three of them here. The first one all right, so here we are. The first one is your payment system, right? So this is your revenue workflow. Let's call that your operations, the processes that you've integrated, and especially with this specific system as I just described, how you're able to create additional revenue using these specific systems, leveraging what you're already doing in your business a little differently with a different mindset, where you're able to now leverage or increase your revenue by leveraging your existing business, right? Transforming these exact processes into more definitive processes. Okay, so here we're talking about fraud protection systems. We're talking about auto engagement processes with checkout boxes. We're talking about integration of workflows in specific industries that are heavily manual, right? So, for example, if you're an attorney or if you're a professional service provider and you're in a position where you're able to convince clients to pay you online, you know how tough that is, number one, and number two, how very few firms are actually deploying those kind of mechanisms, right? Where they're still following the old school mechanisms. So that's something, if you cracked it, hey, there's a certain way of leveraging that to existing partners, once again, to competitors in non-competing industries and markets. Okay, so think about the revenue workflows. See if you can identify those into processes, break it down, make it simple, make it something that can be developed into perhaps a template, right? That can be leveraged again. So these are the different strategies that go into how, in this particular closing and delivery side, how you can leverage it using simple tools. Okay, let's go ahead and copy another triangle. All right, where are we? All right, so the second one in this case, all right, so let's put this one here. In this particular one, we're talking about the digital assets that you're using as part of this process, right? So here, the actual content, the actual creatives, the actual feedback, right? Social proof that you have acquired, right? These are, again, data. These are pieces of property that can be easily converted into something valuable, as long as you're able to, number one, identify what they are, number two, start putting them together in a format that can be leveraged as assets, right? That can be traded and sold, that can be bought, that can be licensed in different industries, non-competing industries, and sometimes even competing but different markets. And the last one here is the use of technology in this particular case to do the delivery process, right? Where you're able to identify a specific business model that is okay. So here we're talking about the delivery systems where you've been able to leverage a business, scale it using a specific type of delivery, right? But it's obviously through the use of technology, but I'm talking about a specific format. Maybe it's a group format. Maybe it's online recorded videos that you can, a series of videos that you can create, digitize, and have your prospective leads and clients go through and engage from there. So these are systems, once again, each one of those things, the engagement rates, the data that you collect on those are valuable. Every step. Here's a simple example. Instead of having a one-on-one, perhaps you can do a group consultation, right? And maybe you're in a business where you're able to have workshops or these groups, which again, once again, maybe traditionally they're not implemented in your market. So you want to think about ways that you want to stand out from the marketplace, do things differently, and able to generate additional revenue using those, and using these exact systems in different ways that help you monetize your existing ideas, existing assets, right? Things you've already developed, things you already use in your business, creatives that you already create, screening forms that you already use, right? Split testing those with different variations to identify what can be improved in an existing process, enhanced in an existing setting, or perhaps incorporated so that you can do things a little differently for different results. Hopefully that makes sense so far in the delivery portion of it, and how by just making a few small strategic shifts in the way you approach your business as you conduct your business, you can develop assets in this process, right? Valuable assets that can be leveraged a variety of ways that you can use to not only increase your bottom line on a monthly basis or a yearly basis, but actually increase the net value and the net worth of your business by developing microprocesses, microfunnels, very specific data that people pay a lot of money for, that you would like to pay for, right? So start developing those datas using these formats, using this triangle with the 9 boxes that I've listed here for you. Let's go ahead and call this process the intellect skills to the intellectual property to the assets, right? So hopefully this 9-step process here of how you can create additional assets by not doing anything differently, but just transforming small things that you're already using in your business makes sense to you. It's something you can deploy right away. And once again, it doesn't require you to spend additional money or do things differently from what you're already doing. But small strategic shifts give you this ability to all of a sudden create additional assets out of something you're already doing. So if you have any questions relating to today's workshop, relating to today's free course that I talked to you about on how to develop digital assets, how to take your intellectual skills and transform them into intellectual assets and intellectual property, feel free to reach out to me. You'll find my contact information here on this page. If you're tuned into Bashani Radio or iHeartMedia, feel free to go to my law firm website, California Law Services, and reach out to me with your very specific question. I want to give a special shout out for last week's members, Kevin and Jason, who volunteered to put together a free slideshow for you guys, taking some of these information, taking a lot of the content that's being delivered over the last few months and compressing it into a video with actionable strategies. I'll be delivering that in about 2 weeks to you, so keep in tune for that. If you'd like a copy of that ahead of time to take a look at the video and have all this data in one video, at a little bit faster pace that you can follow, make sure, once again, you go to the website, just send me an email with the words free video, and I'll make sure that you get a copy delivered to you as soon as we have it fresh off the press. Okay, so thanks again for joining me in this week's episode of Entrepreneur Empowered. If you have any specific questions, feel free to give me a text or send me a text as well. I've had a few people do that. Last week we had TJ as well as Bob, and I believe I answered both your questions relating to trademarks using the text strategy. So thanks again for that. If you have any more questions, reach out to me. I will catch you next week. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for joining me. Once again, it's Sid Pedinti, founder of Entrepreneur Empowered Organization. I will catch you then.